Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. Doug is on assignment, so my name is Sean Pulrang. I'm usually in the back room, but I'll be doing the talking tonight. Helping me out also in the back room today, we've got Russell Malley, iClub Central's accounting advisor, and Triva Dildine, longtime member service representative and all-round ace at answering questions on just about everything. Tonight's webinar for Tuesday, September 16th is Balancing Your Investment Club's Books. As it says, we'll be presenting tonight, so without further ado, we'll carry on for the first show. Now, some of you may have noticed, we've noticed it here, we are having a little bit of a technical difficulty tonight. The handout, unfortunately, is for the wrong month. So if you missed the show on beneficiaries, now is your chance to catch up. Otherwise, both Triva and Russell have links. If you ask, they will give you the link to the handout. And once we post this on the website, that will be an updated link as well. So my apologies again, a little bit of technical difficulty tonight as we start out, but let's get on with the show here. This is Balancing Your Investment Club's Books. So some of you may know this already. Treasurers, longtime treasurers, will find this easy to agree. Mistakes can happen, whether you're just starting out or whether you've been doing this for the club's lifetime here. So, due to the nature of unit value accounting, again, this is things you might have run into. You can find that minor errors, a couple of cents here and there, given time, will compound and can become harder to find the longer you let them go. We caution that unresolved errors can cause situations that may feel impossible or at least extremely difficult to fix. Finding incorrect member withdrawals for individuals who are no longer members, auditing through the books and finding, oh, you might have feel like you paid them the wrong amount. So we want to spend tonight talking about reconciling the books and why it's important to do this on a regular basis. So I'm going to start with a relatively speaking, a new option here, the Reconcile Accounts Wizard. Reconcile Wizard is meant to be something that helps you keep track of the entries that you've made involving the club's cash accounts, securities, and members. This is a nice little tool that we've built in. It will default to show transactions that are unreconciled for the current year whenever you go in. So if you sit down January 1st or January 28th of a given year, you're not going to see the club's entire history. So you don't have to do a bunch of catch up. If you were to start now, you would get just the current year. I do feel this is the sort of thing that unless your club is has very light activity, it's generally the sort of thing that we suggest running every month or two. So this is something you'll find from under the accounting page. You go to Wizards, it's one of the options there. It's the Reconcile Wizard. I've got a screenshot here of something you might see. This is a club that has a handful of transactions for August that have not yet been reconciled. So what you'll notice near the top right, it's got the calculated balance according to entered transactions. So that's not reconciled, that's just what's been entered in the club. If you were to look at the cash journal, that's the balance you would see. Those circled entries, again, those are entries that are on the books. And the whole idea here is you would sit down with your statement, you'd look at these transactions, and you would go through, and it's very simple, sort of just a click, while you go through and match up the entries that are showing there versus what's in your broker's statement here. So I want to point out here that the latest balance figure can be adjusted to any amount. So you might have noticed in the previous screen, there was a transaction there for September. So if you're doing this month by month, you can always go back to that latest balance figure. You can make a little edit and say, well, we know we've got transactions, or I should say, my apologies, the transactions there were mostly August, one for September. So you can go back, edit the balance there and say, well, we're just doing through the end of August. Then, as I say, you go through, check, you select the transactions that match up with the entries on the broker statement. and the reconcile will total them up for you. If everything goes according to plan, the difference goes to 0, and on the screen you'll see at the bottom corner it will say difference 0. It will show done. If you see that done button, that means, at least as far as the system is concerned, that everything is all right. You've done all the entries. They all match up with your broker. And again, the difference between what you've got for the total and what you should be seeing on the broker statement should be 0, at which point, again, you click done. As far as it's concerned, you are reconciled for that month. So we point out, if the done button does not light up, if it stays sort of grayed out, the reconcile does not complete. If it can't be completed, that's a case where, and we'll get into it in a minute, you might need to do a little bit of digging around in the records. You want to check the starting balance to make sure the previous months or years are correct. You want to check the ending cash balance, make sure it matches to the balance on the date from the last transaction you selected. We also want to caution here, we do run into this sometimes. There is an option to say delete if you've selected a transaction. We want to be careful to point out that is not just deleting it from the reconcile wizard. That does actually delete a transaction from the club books. Don't worry too much though. We skipped the screen in the show tonight, but anytime you go in to perform the reconcile using that wizard, it does prompt you to make a backup. So you just click the one button, say backup and continue. So you do have a safety net. If you accidentally do click a delete where you didn't mean to, you do have that safety net to go back to. I also want to point out some of the things the reconcile wizard doesn't do. So it cannot add transactions. If you're checking through your reconciling and you find that a member deposit is missing or a dividend is missing, that's something that you'll need to go under the accounting, under whether that's securities or members or cash accounts. So if you're missing a transaction, you can always pause, add that transaction, come back and try the reconcile again. Reconcile also cannot edit transactions. So again, if you're looking through your member deposits or you're looking through your dividends and you find you made an error, you put an extra 50 cents for a dividend, you put someone's deposit in twice, whatever the case might be. If you need to make an edit, that's again another case. You would go from accounting and then under one of the securities or members or cash accounts, and you go into the view and edit transactions. You make your transactions or you make your edits there. We do also want to say, not really a big issue, but transactions cannot be unreconciled. So if you've marked something and somehow the done button lit up and you clicked OK, it marks everything reconciled, and somehow you realize, wait a minute, you made a typo somehow on the balance and it didn't come out the way you expected. Unfortunately, the only way to unreconcile would be to delete and re-enter the transaction. So again, sort of a rare case, but just keep in mind some of the limitations. This is, again, primarily a tool that we expect you do once a month, maybe once every 2 months, and it's mostly just making sure that you're double checking your own work. So if that doesn't work out quite right, then we get into the little bit longer form, the manual account reconciliation. So now I want to check before I get too far. Usually we pause for a moment. So are there any questions, Russell or Treva, anything I should go back to, or are we all set?
Well, I think we're pretty all set.
Okay, all right. So as I said, the old-fashioned way, the manual account reconciliation. So as with the reconcile wizard, we want to point out these are the sort of things you should be doing each month. You want to check your bank and broker account cash balances in the myICLUB.com. You want to go, one of the easiest ways you can do this, you can go from accounting to cash accounts. You can set the date to be the same as the account statement, click submit, and the site will update to show what it thinks or what it has on record as the balances for those days. So this is something you can be useful if the dates for multiple transactions are the same in both the books and accounts. And again, it gives you a way to just sort of quickly double check what are my balances here? So here's the screen. And again, you may not see this one too often, but this is again from going from accounting and clicking on the heading for cash accounts. You can then go down and again, edit that date, click submit, and the numbers there will update to whatever's in the club books to show the balance on that date. And we want to say also, next thing up, we want to check another one. It's sort of easy to miss or run into potential troubles. The securities. Generally, we suggest you want to compare the number of shares owned in the broker statement to the number of shares on the club's valuation statement. We suggest not to try matching down to the penny the total value of the portfolio to the myICLUB.com books. We do run into trouble sometimes that in cases, even if the same day is selected, the prices could be ever so slightly different. Some folks, if you've got stocks that are tracked into a fourth or fifth decimal place on your broker statement, you know what I'm talking about. They might round a couple of pennies one way or the other, and you can tear your hair out trying to find those differences. So again, we say at least for starters, you match the number of shares and you match the money. You're on a good path there. So here's an example. Here is reconciling the books. It's the number of shares, market value. Obviously, you don't want it to be too far off, but really what we're saying there is the important part, at least for the shares, or at least for the companies, is do you have the right number of shares? And again, this is assuming that you have already reconciled the cash and the cash has matched up. So if you're going down the list of options there, the cash, then the securities, and then obviously you want to get the members too. So this is also on top of the month by month. We also strongly suggest that for your tax returns, you want to do also a reconciliation. A lot of clubs, we call this the annual audit, something to do at the end of the year. And it's a case of, you might feel like you're doing extra work, but the way we think of it is, if you're doing monthly or quarterly reconciliations, the annual really doesn't take that much extra time, right? If you've gone month to month and it's fine, and you get to December and you're fine, you do a quick pass just to double check yourself, give yourself that peace of mind. If you haven't done month to month or quarter to quarter, it takes a little bit of extra time, but it's basically the same process, just again, it takes a little bit of extra time there. So we get this question a lot. Treva and I think, recognize this as a common one. The what if my amounts don't match? So that can be a little bit time consuming, but our option there, or our suggestion there is go line by line, reconcile each transaction. There isn't really too much of a shortcut there. I'll say the closest I can suggest is, if you haven't been going month by month, start in the middle of the year, check your balances for, say, for June or July. If your balances match at the end of those months, then you know that whatever it is happened in the last half of the year. You might save yourself a little bit of time if you're trying to hunt through transactions. But otherwise, it is very much a, how do we fix this? Well, unfortunately, I hate to make it work, but the fix is you go line by line until you find what happened there. And I'll say this is a good opportunity for me to plug one of my favorite reports, the Cash Journal. This report shows a running total, every transaction that you've put in that either adds or subtracts money. Will give you a balance after each entry. Makes it much easier to find those missing entries or to find those things that might have a little bit of a typo about the amount. You can print or save a PDF copy of the Cash Journal as you like, and you just go through and again compare the balance, both starting and ending, check the transactions, make sure they match up. Presumably you'll find that. You fix any errors, you go back to the myICLUB, you check again cash accounts. If the balances were wrong, you double check them, and similar for the securities. Here's an example of the Cash Journal, but it's a similar thing we'll see with securities there, where if the number of shares wasn't matching up, you're going to do a similar option there, where you're going to look through the transactions, find what's missing, make your edits or your additions, and then double check. So things we see an awful lot of. This is an easy one. Transactions not entered in the books. Your broker statement maybe has 15, 20 pages depending on transactions, and sometimes they'll get one last dividend that'll be the only thing on this second to last page of the statement, and you missed it. You missed that one. Oops. Sometimes you'll get the wrong account. We see this sometimes, that the system defaults to one account. You accidentally didn't switch it to the other. And you ended up with putting the dividend or the member deposit in the wrong account. It's relatively easy. Sometimes we'll see wrong dates. This one comes up especially at the very beginning and the very end of the year. Very beginning, you've been typing the same year for the last 12 months. You get to January of the new year. Sometimes your fingers just go on autopilot and you accidentally put in the previous year. So that's certainly something that we see. The system will catch dates that are more than a year in the past. Something to keep an eye out for. You're not in trouble, but if you enter something that's a little bit old or a little bit out of date on the transaction confirmation, it will pop up an alert that says, "Wait a minute, this is a little bit old. Did you mean to do that?" We also see incorrect amounts. This is another one. It's easy sometimes if you're typing in dividends, you might accidentally forget to key in one of the cents, or you might accidentally put in, you might mean to hit the 5, you might hit the 6. Those sort of things certainly can happen. You do this check through the books. Is again sort of thing that you'll often find is an issue there. We also want to see taking a look for or keeping an eye out for the number of shares and the total value when you're recording transactions. Again, similar to what we said before, where you're looking at the portfolio and you want to make sure primarily that the number of shares is correct. Sometimes we will run into trouble where, again, the broker will be using a slightly different price per share rounded off maybe a little bit differently than our system. And we want to say what's important is the number of shares in the transaction and the total value of the transaction. If the calculated price per share, again, is a couple of cents off, that's nothing to worry about. Again, shares and total value. So now this is the I think we're getting into sort of the hard part here. And again, I hate to make work for you, but we run into this sometimes, how do you find something if you don't know, if you can't tell what's missing, if all you know is it's some odd dollar amount. We do have a fairly robust transaction search that is really good at tracking things down. This is something folks might not use too much. I don't want to say hidden, but it's not right there in front of you, I think, most of the time. But if you go from accounting to summary and view edit transactions, folks may recognize the screen that comes up there. It gives you a basic search where you can put in a date range and a transaction type. And then we also have something you might want to get used to, advanced search, which gives the option to put in the date of the transaction, or I should say the date the transaction was entered. This I will say when troubleshooting, I find especially useful because sometimes we'll get a call, and again, I point to Treva who definitely is going to be nodding in agreement here, that someone will call up and say, well, the books matched in May, and now they don't in June. And then somehow when I went back and looked at the May books, now those are out of balance too. The advanced search, if you get comfortable using it, can be an absolute saver on this. This lets you put in, again, the date the transaction was entered. So again, if you get that example, your books were fine in May, they don't look right in June, you can sit down, you can put in a transaction date pretty much anytime you want. But if you go to that date transaction entered and you put in, say the last 2 months, you put in the dates of May and June, the system will show a readout of transactions. Let me see, I missed a screenshot here, my apologies. Yep, got way ahead of myself. My apologies for that. If you put in the 2 dates there, it will show a readout of the transactions showing 2 columns, one for what the transaction was dated and the other showing when it was entered. So you can help catch any of those issues where you might have accidentally typed in the wrong month, or if you were going a little too fast, sometimes we even see typed in accidentally an incorrect year. Again, it takes a little bit of getting used to. It is maybe one of the semi-secret tools of the support department when we're tracking down transactions. There is that date transaction entered. It helps us narrow things down an awful lot. So I'll say most transactions can be edited. In fact, the only ones really that cannot are the member withdrawals. Those are complex enough that unfortunately, if you do find an error on a withdrawal, those are just about the only thing that need to be deleted and re-entered. Anything else, whether that's a dividend, a deposit, a split, a spin-off, a merger, anything you've put in, you click on the transaction in the list of transactions, and you'll get this option here, delete or edit. You click edit, you can make a change. Now, I should point out, this does not mean you can change the type of transaction. So if you have a dividend and it turns out it should have been a stock split, in that case, you do have to delete it. The edit button does let you change pretty much all the details except for the type of transaction. So again, if you accidentally put in a dividend instead of a split, delete that. But if you just accidentally put in the wrong stock or the wrong amount or put it to the wrong account, that's fairly easy to fix there. So if it happens that you've got a problem with member withdrawal, this might be obvious. Step 1, make a backup. Next, return to the transaction, make note of the details, whether that is doing a screen print or getting a pad of paper and writing it down, up to you. Delete the transaction, re-enter, make your corrections, and carry on from there. So this is one where sometimes I wonder whether the suspense is still used by a lot of folks there. Generally speaking, we say that the transactions in the myICLUB should, whenever possible, use the same date as what your broker statement shows. If there are cases where there's a delay in a transaction posting, whether that means mailing a deposit, mailing a check, moving money from one place to another, if you want to, not necessary, but we say if you want to, you can always edit the myICLUB transaction, adjust the date to reflect the date of the actual transaction, or you can use the suspense account. So that lets you account for if there's a couple of days delay moving the money from one place to another. You can say put the transaction to suspense, and then when it arrives in the other place, you can then enter a new transaction that shows the money either being added to or taken from suspense. So it's, again, may not be used as much as it once was, but it is or can be really useful to track transactions across, especially across valuation statement dates. As I say here, it was something that used to be used a little bit more in the past for security purchases, when the club would have to send a check in the mail, and it might take a few days for the check to arrive. So this is something, again, with electronic transfers, probably not quite as often, but again, we want to point out the suspensive account can certainly be useful if you do run into a case where you've sent a check or you're transferring funds and for some reason there's a delay. I will say again, especially if it looks like something is going to go over the end of the month and you want to make sure that the cash balance matches at the end of one month and then going into the next one. So I've been talking everybody's ears off. Do we have anything to bring up there? Russell, Treva, anybody, anything I should mention there?
Well, someone made a point of the backup or not before you start the reconcile.
Mm.
I know you've recommended doing the backup.
Oh, sure. Yeah, never hurts. Yeah.
And the only other thing I wanted to point out, that comes before the actual reconcile starts. But whether you do a backup or not, once that's finished, that page is finished, the reconcile is going to start, will look the same whether you do a backup or not. So
that's true. Yep. And Russell's right. No need to worry. If you skip it, you can always go back. Or as he says, if even if you didn't do the backup, that doesn't change how the rest of the reconcile works. So good. Okay. Well, with that, I think I did a bit of a speed run here, but if there's nothing else, folks, I want to thank you all for coming. Apologies, as I said, Doug was out on assignment tonight. I hope we enjoyed the show, and looking forward to seeing everybody here again next month. I think topic is still under wraps, but again, we're looking forward to seeing you. And thanks again, everybody, for coming out tonight.